welcome to Diving Into God, a podcast where we discuss Catholic theology. And now here are your hosts, David and Liz.
Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going back in time, way back to the 9th century.
9th century, wow. Empires, expeditions, you name it. It was a pretty happening time, and, a lot of what shaped our world today was being planted back then.
It really was. And we're focusing on two figures from that era who played a huge part in that. Saints Cyril and Methodius. You've probably heard those names before, maybe in history class.
Yeah, they're often relegated to those history book mentions, or maybe you've seen them in stained glass windows. But trust me, their story is anything but dusty old history.
It's way more exciting than those textbooks let on. And we've got a really incredible source to guide us. An excerpt from Pope John Paul II's encyclical, Slavorum Apostoli. That's a papal encyclical, folks. We're talking top-tier stuff here.
It really is remarkable. It's like getting a glimpse into their lives and their impact through the eyes of a pope who deeply admired them.
Exactly. Now, I'm guessing most of you have at least heard of Cyril and Methodius, maybe something to do with an alphabet.
Right, the Cyrillic alphabet. Yeah, that's their claim to fame for a lot of people.
But their story goes way beyond that. We're talking adventure, intrigue, religious debates, even a touch of, dare I say, Indiana Jones.
I like the way you think. Seriously, though, their story takes us from the bustling streets of Thessalonica all the way to the heart of the Khazar Khaganate, a vast empire spanning parts of modern-day southwestern Russia and Ukraine. Talk about a journey.
So imagine yourself back in the 9th century. We start our story in Thessalonica, or as it was known then, Salonika. Now, this wasn't some backwater town. This was a major hub of the Byzantine Empire, a melting pot of cultures and ideas.
And that's really important because it shaped who Cyril and Methodius became. Their father was a high-ranking Byzantine official, so they grew up surrounded by the best of the best education, libraries, you name it. They were exposed to it all.
Talk about privilege. With that kind of upbringing, you'd think they'd follow a typical path, right?
Yeah.
Scholars, high-ranking officials, that sort of thing.
It sounds logical, doesn't it? But that's where their story takes an unexpected turn.
Because Methodius, the older brother, he actually started down that more conventional path. He even held a government position, working in a province with a sizable Slavic population, actually. But then he drops it all to become a monk. Can you imagine making that kind of life change?
It's a huge decision. And you know what's fascinating? I think that experience of navigating both those worlds, the secular political world and the spiritual world of the monastery, it uniquely prepared Methodius for what lay ahead.
It's like he developed this deep understanding of power dynamics and faith. And those insights would prove invaluable later on. And we can't forget Cyril. He was a brilliant scholar, fluent in multiple languages. We're talking a true intellectual powerhouse.
He even turned down a prestigious political appointment. They were both clearly drawn to something more, something bigger than themselves.
And this is where the adventure really kicks off. Because before they embarked on their famous mission to the Slavs, they were actually part of a mission to the Khazars.
The Khazars, right. A powerful group who were considering converting to a new religion. Can you imagine being tasked with engaging in theological debates with them?
I can barely hold my own in a theological debate now. And they weren't just bookish monks either. They had to be diplomats, negotiators, the whole package.
They were definitely put to the test. And somewhere along the way, they managed to recover the relics of Saint Clement.
Saint Clement, the Pope from centuries earlier. It's like something straight out of an adventure film.
It really is. And this little escapade just adds to their growing reputation. They were men of action, able to navigate different cultures and challenges, but little did they know this was just the beginning.
And you know that experience they had with the Khazars, all that diplomacy and theological wrangling? Well, it turned out it was the perfect training ground for their biggest mission yet. Because remember Prince Rostislav over in Greater Moravia?
Yeah, Prince Rostislav, it's around 862 AD, and he's really trying to solidify his independence, especially from the Frankish Empire breathing down his neck.
Makes sense. Every up-and-coming ruler needs a strategy, right?
Exactly. And he realizes that a strong cultural identity, something that sets his people apart, that's key.
So he has this, kind of radical idea for the time. He wants to bring Christianity to his people.
But, and this is a big but, not in a way that makes them feel like puppets of the Franks. He doesn't want just more of the same.
So he's looking for a different approach, a more organic kind of conversion.
Spot on. He needs teachers, scholars, people who can communicate the Christian message in a way that really resonates with the Slavs.
He wants them to understand it, to connect with it on their own terms.
Exactly. It's about meeting people where they are. And who does he call on for this crucial mission? Our boys, Cyril and Methodius.
Of course. Who better, right? They dealt with the Khazars. They knew from experience that faith wasn't one size fits all.
Right. So they head to Greater Moravia, and they're armed not just with their faith, but with their incredible language skills.
Because they knew to really make it stick, the message had to be accessible. You can't exactly convert people with words they don't understand.
Exactly. So they take on this massive project, painstakingly translating the Bible and liturgical texts into Old Slavonic, the language of the people.
Wow. Just imagine the dedication that took.
Hours upon hours, poring over texts, making sure they captured the nuances, the meaning. It's a massive undertaking.
And this is where that alphabet everyone knows them for comes into play, right?
The Cyrillic alphabet. Exactly. Think about it. How do you write down a language that doesn't have a written form? They needed a system, and they created it.
It's brilliant. And talk about a lasting legacy. The Cyrillic alphabet is still used today by millions.
It's a testament to their vision, you know? They understood the power of language.
But I'm guessing not everyone was thrilled with their approach, right? I mean, translating the Bible, that's pretty radical for the time.
You're not wrong. They faced pushback. Some clergy, particularly in the Latin Church, they weren't exactly on board with this whole Slavonic liturgy thing.
It was probably seen as a threat, or at least disruptive.
Oh, absolutely. Remember those power dynamics we talked about earlier? The Eastern Church, the Western Church, they weren't always on the same page.
Things were already tense, and then Cyril and Methodius come along, advocating for, what, a more inclusive approach to Christianity?
Exactly. They were saying, hey, different cultures, different languages, that's okay. It doesn't diminish the faith.
It's a pretty bold stance, especially back then. So what did they do? Did they back down?
Not a chance. They decided to go straight to the top, to Rome.
They appealed to the Pope directly.
Wow, they did. And they brought their Slavonic liturgical books with them, basically saying, see, this is what we're doing. What do you think?
That's gutsy.
It really was. And you know what? Pope Hadrian II, he actually saw the wisdom in their approach. He officially approved their Slavonic liturgical books.
He did. That's amazing.
It was a huge victory for Cyril and Methodius, a real turning point. But sadly, it's also where we have to say goodbye to Cyril. He dies in Rome in 869.
Oh no. After all that, after achieving this huge victory for their mission.
It's heartbreaking. But Cyril's legacy, along with Methodius's, it was far from over.
I can't even imagine your brother, your partner in all of this, gone. Methodius could have just packed it and, gone back to the quiet life.
It would have been understandable, but Methodius, he was made of tough stuff. He was appointed Archbishop of Sirmium, a region that actually covered a good chunk of Moravia.
So he's tasked with, basically building up the church there.
Exactly. And get this, he's supposed to do it using the very same Slavonic language and liturgy he and Cyril fought so hard for.
You'd think with the Pope's blessing, things would be smooth sailing from here on out, right?
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? But this is the 9th century we're talking about. Nothing's ever that easy.
Because just a few years later, Methodius finds himself, get this, imprisoned.
Imprisoned. Can you believe that? All because he dared to translate the Bible.
Talk about not being a fan of innovation. So who put him away?
His opponents, of course. The ones who were dead set against this whole Slavonic liturgy idea. They accused him of overstepping his bounds, going rogue.
The nerve. But hey, at least they were consistent, right? So what happened? Did they silence him for good?
Thankfully, no. Methodius, he had friends in high places.
Always helpful.
Tell me about it. Pope Pius VIII caught wind of this injustice, and he was not having it. He steps in, demands Methodius's release.
Good for him. Standing up for what's right.
Right. And to really drive the point home, the Pope issues a formal document, a papal bull backing Methodius and the Slavonic liturgy.
A papal smackdown. I love it. So Methodius is back in action, free to continue his work. End of story. Right.
If only. Remember Prince Rastislav, the one who invited them to Moravia in the first place?
Yeah, good old Rastislav.
Well, he gets deposed by his nephew, Svatopluk. And let's just say Svatopluk wasn't exactly thrilled about the whole Slavonic liturgy thing either.
Oh boy, back to square one.
Pretty much. Poor Methodius, he just couldn't catch her back. He's got to navigate another power struggle, all while trying to preserve everything he and Cyril worked so hard to build.
Talk about perseverance. This guy was incredible.
He really was. And you know what's remarkable? Even on his deathbed in 885 AD, He's still fighting for his mission. He never wavered in his belief that language and culture, they only strengthen the faith, they don't diminish it.
Wow. What a life. And what a legacy. I mean, the Cyrillic alphabet is still around, a testament to their impact.
It really is. Millions of people use it every day. But it's more than just letters on a page, it's a symbol. A symbol that faith transcends language, that embracing differences, it doesn't weaken us, it makes us stronger.
They were true pioneers, weren't they? Cyril and Methodius. They really challenged the status quo, and in doing so, they gave us a blueprint for a more inclusive, more understanding world.
They absolutely did. And their story, it's a good reminder for all of us, to be open to those who are different from us, who speak different languages, come from different backgrounds. There's so much we can learn from each other if we just open ourselves up to it.
Couldn't agree more. Well, folks, there you have it. Another deep dive into the past and hopefully some inspiration for the future. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember, you never know where those journeys will take you.